أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. How are you all? Assalamu alaikum. I hope you are all well. Today I'm going to tell you a story of Prophet Hud alayhi salam and Shaddad. The name of this story is The Great Winds. A long time ago, in a land situated in the west of the present-day Oman, there lived a tribe named Ad. They were a powerful tribe. It is said that they were a lot bigger and taller than today's average man. A typical Ad man used to be so powerful that he could depress the earth just by stamping his foot on it. Besides physical might, Allah the Almighty had also granted him the art of masonry. They were the first to erect grand buildings which were fortified by sturdy pillars. Their skills had earned them the name the people of the pillars. Ad belonged to a long line of prophets. Ad belonged to the line of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam and were the offspring of his son Prophet Sam alayhi salam. It had been hundreds of years since Prophet Nuh alayhi salam's departure, and the people had forgotten the message that he had brought to them. Now, Ad worshipped idols and were involved in every sin imaginable. It was in this nation that a child was born with a godly glow in his face. His parents named him Hud. When Prophet Hud alayhi salam was growing up, he always refrained from worshipping idols and getting involved in the sinful activities that were a way of life for his people. He grew up to be a fine, handsome young man. He saw his people ruining their eternal afterlife just to have the pleasure of this temporary worldly life. This pained him a great deal, but he did not know what to do to change the matter. Then, one day, the archangel Hazrat Jibreel alayhi salam came to him with a message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prophet Hud alayhi salam had been ordained as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's messenger, and he had been given the task of converting the Ad to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's faith. Prophet Hud alayhi salam now had a mission of his life. He began to preach to his people and also the people who resided in nearby towns or villages. He asked people to renounce idol worship and pray to the one and only Allah Almighty. Most of the people refused to listen to him. They said that these idols were being worshipped from the time of their forefathers, and they would not give it up just because a young man has come and claimed to be the messenger of God. Prophet Hud alayhi salam warned them that if they did not amend their ways, the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shall fall upon them. There were some people who converted to Prophet Hud alayhi salam's faith, but the majority of the Ad remained stubborn in their beliefs. It was not easy to renounce the belief that they had followed all their lives, especially when they had to give it up. Also, they had to give up their sinful activities and follow the code defined by Allah. They became enemies of Prophet Hud alayhi salam. The king of Ad, Shaddad, threatened to punish Prophet Hud alayhi salam severely if he did not abandon his preaching. Prophet Hud alayhi salam invited him to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and promised that he would be given paradise in the hereafter if he submitted to the creed of Allah. Instead of listening to Prophet Hud alayhi salam, Shaddad claimed that he could make a paradise on earth. Therefore, at the cost of great wealth, he built a place to rival Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's paradise and called it the Garden of Item. To punish him for his arrogance and defiance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the earth to swallow the garden. The earth opened up and the garden was buried forever. Even this could not make Shaddad see matters as they were. He became even more defiant and planned to martyr Prophet Hud alayhi salam. The infidels of his nation supported him. When Prophet Hud alayhi salam got wind of their plans, he prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asked for punishment for Prophet Hud alayhi salam asked Allah for a punishment for those who still defied him. Allah answered his prayers and the rain stopped falling on Ad. They were struck with a dreadful drought. Their springs and all their wells dried up and their crops were ruined. But they remained steadfast in their wrongful ways. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided that their time should now come to an end because these people had closed every door of redemption with their own hands. One day, a black cloud appeared on the horizon and floated towards the town of Ad. The people rejoiced because they thought the cloud was bringing rain. But when Prophet Hud alayhi salam saw it, he knew immediately that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wrath has arrived. He gathered his followers and left town with them. He told Ad that their time is up, and now a devastating storm of winds shall obliterate them forever. Ad tried to leave the town too, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala scattered snakes and scorpions on every road leading out. At last, they stood defiantly and said, "We shall face the winds sent to us by Hud's God. We have built great strong buildings that can withstand any storm. We ourselves are big and strong like giants. No wind can harm us." But the first wave of wind blew away their grand and strong buildings along with them. Pillars of stone were blown away like matchsticks. The giant people flew and spun in the winds like dry leaves, and then were hurled down to earth like sacks of potatoes. Every part of the town of Ad was smashed to pieces. When the wind cleared up, the pagans of Ad were still scattered everywhere like uprooted trees among the rubble of buildings of which they were so proud. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very kind and patient, but when someone keeps defying him, his wrath obliterates them from the face of the earth like they had never ever been there. And that is what happened to the people of Ad and to many other nations who invited Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's retribution through their consistent defiance and disobedience. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide every one of you to the right path and deliver them from such a horrible fate. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajahum.